So here's Dr. Hasib. Yay!
Thank you for this honor. It's amazing to be here and to talk about two very important topics. See that the publishing and the personal branding kind of goes hand in hand. If you're going to choose to do independent publishing, you almost have to do personal branding in independent publishing. Why independent publishing? Because there's a big problem with publishing today. Some of you who are faculty members or have tried to publish, you probably know this, that publishers control everything. They will take your intellectual property, they will make money from it, and you will hardly make any money. I know scholars who have published 8, 9 books. Publishers made a lot of money, but the authors themselves made very little money. And after a little while, the publishers don't really market your products anyway. Maybe some libraries will get it, but in general, the public consumption of your work is very little. The other thing is with doctoral dissertations. To me, this is another major problem. ProQuest. They have doctoral dissertations and all this research there. Is ProQuest free? No. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest problems is that these people have become so greedy that they have tried to consolidate the power with all this single points of contacts that they try to strong arm universities and other institutions to give them huge amounts of money for. The thing is that some of their own researchers had published there, and then in return, they couldn't share it with their own students at a reasonable cost. So basically they said, just kick them out. And that's going to happen more and more as competition with universities is going to happen, because the universities are getting squeezed big time with that skyrocketing tuition. What was happening is that as the cost of all this was increasing, the universities were trying to get away with increasing tuition costs. That's not going to last very long. If you look around you, there are many universities going out of business today, right now. So the model has to change. The other thing is prices. The prices have been incredibly high. Some of these books are $100, $200. How can a student actually afford any of that? If whatever you do is priced at a very high point, it's not going to get consumed. Also, ebooks. These publishers will publish the paperback or hard copy at $100, and the ebook would be like $80, $90, maybe $20 off. That's insanity. It doesn't cost that much to do an ebook. The other thing is that they are also controlling the distributors. You will find that when you go to some of the stores, even Barnes & Noble, right now, Barnes & Noble does not allow independent authors to present at their bookstores or to have our books at their bookshelves. They have them online, but my book cannot be brought into a Barnes & Noble store. Isn't that insanity? Why? The publishers are forcing bookstores to do this. There's a bookstore called Poetry and Prose in DC. They often invite authors to talk about various topics. So I offered to, hey, I'll bring the books, whatever is not sold, I'll take it back. Nothing costs to you. You mark it up, whatever way you want it, and allow me to talk. They wouldn't. Why? Because publishers will not sell their books at their store if they did that. Also insanity. Ron, did you say that you published, and did you want to share your experience with the royalties? How much of the royalties do you get?
Oh, I published several books, and I get tons of quarters.
Great statement. Tons of quarters. Yes. So that's essentially what your royalties look like. But that's not good. That is not right. But this is the biggest reason that you lose control of your work. Who has the copyright once you work with a publisher, a commercial publisher? Who has the copyright? They do. You may have the authorship and kind of ownership, but they will control when you can change the edition, whether you can produce an ebook or not, whether you can produce an audiobook or not, they control it. Sometimes you can get into trouble for citing your own work or using your own work in another book or another publication. To me, that is insanity. It should never happen. Your work should always be your work, and you should be in full control of all your work at all times. The edit cycles, of course, is slow. When I tried to think about publishing my book with a traditional publisher, they're telling me, oh yeah, just to get your book out there is going to be 2 years. And then edit cycle is going to be 2-year cycles. That's insanity. What if I need it faster? So obviously that's not good. Then, this is one of the biggest scams around, which is peer-reviewed publishing. Guess what? How that works? The publishers will basically get a group of scholars from various universities to do the peer review. Have any of you done peer reviews? Have you ever gotten paid for doing a peer review? Never.
$1,
Right?
$5.
Right?
I never did.
Right. You never get paid for your peer reviews. If you got paid, that's an exception.
Yeah.
But generally, you don't get paid for that peer review. Big insanity. Because the publishers are not even doing the work. Now, when the publishers actually publish that, you pretty much have to provide almost a camera-ready copy with all the things already done, your things in the right format, and oh, by the way, it's got to be these 6 pages long, and if you have one extra page, you might have to pay another $150 or whatever to get that extra page in there. So, and the other thing is that you're locked away, your work is locked away, and the readers will actually need to pay to read your work. And of course, the content could be stuck. So here was my experience with commercial publishing. I have published commercially, because if I didn't experience it, it would be hard for me to share that experience. So here is an article that I published last year called Cybersecurity as People-Powered Perpetual Innovation. It's a 6-page article. And guess what? Just the PDF version of that is $29.95. It is part of a chapter of a book. The book is $149 in ebook format. The actual hard copy is actually $189. How many people do you think are going to buy that book? And what do you think I make from that publication?
$3 or $1.50?
Zero.
Zero? Oh.
Zero. I
Oh,
make
right,
zero.
Part of a conference, yeah, makes sense.
I make zero.
Right.
All right?
Yeah, part of-
What was your incentive to do this?
My incentive to do this was 2. Number 1, I wanted to prove to the world that I chose independent publishing, not because I cannot go the traditional publishing route. It was a conscious decision to do independent publishing because of this racket that is going on, number 1. Number 2, I noticed that part of my work was not really getting consumed in the academic community that actually only looks at this traditional world of works. Even though my work has been out there from 2014, I was finding that a lot of academics are not consuming it. They don't even know about the model. They didn't even know about the definition of cybersecurity that I had provided. So therefore, I said, this is the only way to get it in. So I made a sacrifice. So what I did with this particular paper is it's basically a summary paper of a lot of my work, which also includes the cybersecurity definition that I provided in the book that you have. So I put that in there so that it gets to the academic world. I knew that I wouldn't make any money from this or any of that.
Yeah, it's proceeding.
But, sorry?
It's a proceeding, it's a conference, so
Exactly.
they're always for free, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is,
Conference?
sorry?
This was a conference proceeding?
Yeah, conference.
It is.
Right.
But the amazing thing about this thing is that even I, the speaker, never traveled at somebody else's expense. I had to pay my own way. And then I had to give the copyright to the publisher for that piece. They even wanted me to pay money for the copy of the proceedings. There were no breakfasts or lunches provided at the conference. I had to pay for the registration fee also. That's insanity.
The conferences are.
Well, I mean, I guess my question would be, I mean, isn't that part of the price of doing business, right? I mean, you're looking to establish a brand and to get yourself to a point where they would compensate you to fly you out there. They would compensate you to speak. And part of that is, you know, making the, like in sales, right? You have to make that investment up front to get the payoff maybe on the back.
Not necessarily. So one of the things that I want you to understand is that there's a whole world out there. So Tomiko Evans is our graduate. She just presented at IC Square. Did you pay for registration fee?
No.
They just invited her to present at Florida. What did they say? They're going to present your way. All expenses paid.
We want her mom.
But are they paying you a fee to speak there?
No.
Not yet, but eventually they will.
Yeah.
So there is a world out there which, if we don't choose to support a crazy world, we can build a new world for ourselves. And that's what I'm proposing to you.
What is the largest market for scholarly publications? Who buys them? Because they wouldn't have this price if nobody bought them, right? So who buys them?
Libraries.
Libraries.
Yeah,
So how do you get into the libraries independently?
absolutely. So you're going to hear that
Good
also.
luck.
Yep, you're going to hear that.
Mansur?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just echoing that same point. I mean, like, again, it's just that you're looking for where the biggest bang for your buck is, and sometimes that, I mean, I think that's great that you got those opportunities. Everyone would love that, but sometimes you have to make that time, investment, sacrifice, I think is the word that you use, in terms of accomplishing your objective, that you had to make that sacrifice to get to where you really want to be.
Absolutely true, but what I want you to understand is the world of independent publishing, and then you can choose what you want to do, right? My goal is to empower you, enable you, and to help you understand this, and then you do what you choose to do, what works for you. Whatever I'm going to say is not necessarily going to work for you, right? But I'm going to share my experiences and what it did for me, and then you decide which way you want to go. So I consciously decided right from a dissertation phase that I was not going to give my dissertation to ProQuest. I decided I'm going to turn that into a book because it would be faster for me to do it. So what I did was did all the prep work before my defense, and then 48 after as soon as I finished my defense, I clicked a button and it went into production. And 48 hours later, this book was published. This was my doctoral dissertation. And then I priced it at a very low point initially because I wanted to get it into people's hands right away. So I priced the ebook at $8 a copy because all the people who were doctoral students that were coming after me wanted to see what a true doctoral dissertation looks like. And I wanted to maintain the integrity of that book, so I didn't change anything except for the initial part where I introduced what it was and all that. I maintained the integrity of the doctoral dissertation. And guess what? Then I priced the paperback. I think at that time I had priced it like $12 or something, because again, I wanted it to get into the hands of people. But I control the prices. This was the beautiful thing.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
So if my dissertation is in ProQuest, I can't publish it?
You have to see what rights you gave to ProQuest. You may be able to pull
I was so happy
that.
to get my dissertation. I probably just.
Right.
It's not standard for doctoral students?
No,
I don't even remember.
it's your choice.
It's your choice.
I had the same question, Mike, and I gave the rights to ProQuest, and it's also actually Google, if you search my name, you can see that on my screen, right? But I mean, can I do that now, publication? right?
You probably could, but look at what you signed away
So it's been away, so.
and see if you can pull it. If you want to do this.
And the ProQuest, if you go back to the contract you signed with them, you'll be amazed what you've done to yourself. I'm being serious with you. Just about probably months ago, me and my colleagues were going through the whole thing. We signed our lives away with them. Well, I'm serious, we're locked up. I wanted to present the same thing somewhere. Then one of my guys said, oh boy, go check what you signed with ProQuest. I need to take an instruction from them. But by the time I got across to them, they said, no boy.
On your own work?
Yes.
Okay.
But at least, I got $25.
I think my doctor is still on the
$25 for what you can do so many times?
When people purchase it.
Oh,
I
okay.
got a check for $25. Over like a 5-year
I'm not
period.
getting nothing since 2006.
Like a 5-year period.
Okay, you see that?
So the key is that I wanted to retain control of my work. I didn't want to give that away because I knew that there would be a lot of derivative work that I would be doing based on my dissertation. I didn't want to have to worry about what the copyright issues are over there. Okay, that was number one. Number two was fast to market. As I said, 48 after my dissertation defense, the book was already available globally. Globally, that was the other thing. At a reasonable cost to anybody, because see, ProQuest is only available to the academic institution that subscribe to it. The normal world doesn't have access to it. And yet, my doctoral dissertation was a national study of healthcare cybersecurity in the USA. And I knew that there is a huge population out there, the hospitals and everybody that are doing HIPAA and all that, that they would be able to use this. They don't have access to ProQuest.
You know, one of the things that I'm finding, being from a research company, they blocked access to ProQuest. We used to have access to ProQuest, they blocked it. So, because I guess it's subscription.
Yeah, it's not their problem, just not paying the subscription.
Well, yeah, and it's not, they found that, hey, we can do it other ways. And some of this stuff, you know, the cost is just not prohibited.
So here's the world of reality today. Half the publications today, half of the knowledge published today, books and everything combined, are independently published. And the trend isn't the other way. The trend is more and more towards independent publishing. And so you have seen even academic publishers going out of business. There's a lot of academic publishers that have actually filed for bankruptcy. It's also weird that if that happens, what happens to your work? If they go out of business and all of a sudden your work may be locked up there, I don't know what will happen.
Because it requires the asset.
I don't know. But my issue is this. If you really want to give away your work, why not make it an open educational resource? Right?
Why aren't, my question is, why aren't the universities supporting the publishing? Why aren't they getting behind the students and faculty and saying, hey, this is a litany of work, and these are our scholars, and why aren't they support? I never understood that.
I am glad that you asked that question, because that's the kinds of questions that I would love for you to keep thinking, and as you go back to your institutions or wherever your sphere of influence, that you evangelize that. Absolutely, they should be doing that. And I'm going to tell you that that's what they should be doing. You can do this. Every university can today become an academic press.
And many are.
Or
And
work together.
it will cost you $0. You could also collaborate. Absolutely. You can do peer reviews and everything. So that model of peer reviewing and all of that stuff doesn't have to go away. That can all be there. But then you will be in better control. The prices will be lower and more accessible to everybody else. You will see that's the whole idea. The other thing is that part of the problem with that is that the content is kind of flat. So even the ebooks, when a typical traditional publisher does it, there are no hyperlinks in the ebook. But hey, the modern world is going towards multimedia. So my ebook actually has hyperlinks that link to the actual citations. You can just click there, you get videos there if necessary, whatever you want. That's the modern book. Yes,
Which channel, or channels did you use to publish your?
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you.
I'm sorry.
I have a question after this.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So, if you don't mind, can you tell me the stats on how is the response on your?
I wanna show all of that. You're anticipating the presentation.
Yeah, because open education.
Resource framework you mentioned on the last slide.
The open educational resources. So the open educational resources, so what is open educational resources? Open educational resources basically says that, yes, I as the author, I'm allowing my work to be used for free or even changed for free by other people. So there are many ways to do open educational resource, but the idea is that the consumer, the student, the other faculty members get your work for free. It's a big movement. Actually, as a matter of fact, University of Maryland, University College, basically we eliminated textbooks in the fall of 2016. Those of you who went through the CADF program didn't see any textbooks in our classrooms. We have gone full open educational resources. Because a lot of good materials are out there. A lot of faculty have realized that, look, my work really needs to be available to a lot of people, and free gets your work out there. Because for most faculty, that's what they want. They want their ideas to be known by as many people as possible, really.
And there's also degrees of that. You can say, I make it available for free, and you can do anything you want.
Correct.
Or you have to use it as is, and you have to,
Cite.
yeah, you have to cite me, and so there's various levels.
Correct.
It's called Creative Commons license.
Yeah.
And you have a variety of choices.
Yes, yes. So you decide how you want to do this very well. So now let's talk about my experiences. So once I made the decision to do independent publishing for all these reasons, I wanted to do all this. This is what I did. In 2013, when I graduated with my Doctor of Science degree, at that time, the paperback was being done at createspace.com. Some of the things that you will need are ISBN numbers. You need to do a cover. All of those things were there at no cost. And at that time, Kindle Direct Publishing was doing the ebook. Basically, these are all Amazon companies. And Audible was doing the audiobook. And so I'm going to go over my experiences in doing this. So here's what I did. The CreateSpace has your setup, title, ISBN, physical properties. You have to decide what size book you want. For example, Lois's book. She wrote this book after hearing my experiences, and we collaborated and chatted. Then she wrote these books. She has published a series of 6 books for children with beautiful color and large print and everything, okay? There are some samples out there. She's generously offered to give it away for free for all of you, whoever wants to pick up copies of her material. But this book is priced very inexpensively in full color, all these things. What is it, like $10 on Amazon each?
Yeah, something like that.
$10 each.
Price changes.
Yeah.
Right. But not that, you also have a huge control over the price.
Control that, right.
You can decide how much profits you want. If you want 0 profits, you can pretty much give away at cost. It's totally up to the author.
Are these, I'm sorry, you guys ran.
Please, no, this is for you.
I'm interested in cybersecurity grandma. But, the fact that you publish them now that did you get them into the school system? Do you need help getting?
Well, I've done a lot. Maybe we could talk about this at lunch because I've done a lot with the books from the standpoint of some Girl Scout troops I've worked with. We've done some cyberbullying things. For the ninth K-12 conference last year, I was one of the sponsors, so everyone had a sample of the book in 400 goodie bags. So I've done a few things with some senior organizations that, because this is not only for children, some of the senior citizens find it useful to understand some of the cybersecurity concepts too. But I can talk about that a little later. Please. Yeah.
Right. So you decide the physical properties. you decide whether your book is going to be in color or black and white. So that's an important decision because color is going to triple your cost. So just know that. When I decided to publish this, I was learning. I didn't know that difference. So I said, yeah, of course, my book has to be in full color. Even though full color really wasn't doing much to my book. All right? So the very first time I published this cybersecurity leadership, it's in full color, but there are only a few diagrams in there, and they need not be in color. But it drove up the price of the book, where for me to make even some money, I would have to price it at like $38, $40. I said, I want it to be closer to the $25 range, if at all possible. So beautiful thing is, because I controlled everything, what did I do? I talked to them, and they said, oh, just produce another one with a different ISBN number, different everything, and make it black and white. And I said, well, do I have to pull the other one? No. He said, no. Some people will buy the color book, no problem. You'll have. I said, what about the sales? Will they be consolidated? Because you want to be able to get credit for the sales, because as your sales numbers go up, you want to keep track of that, because that's how your book also rises in the ranks. So you want to lose that. They said, no problem, we'll tie it all together. So my ebook, my color, and my black and white, all sales are tied together on Amazon, so that the rankings are affected by the cumulative sales of all those books. All right, then you decide the interior, what kind of paper you're going to use, and what kind of font. So the font that I used is called Garamond. Garamond is the most efficient font because it uses very little ink. Because the amount of ink you use is going to affect the price. I learned all this. So this is the other beautiful thing about independent publishing. You get to learn a lot of things that you would not have learned if you weren't challenged that way. Garamond, they will tell you all of that. And also, it's in the chapter. So some of you have the homework. If you read the chapter, how to technology and book publishing in that book that you have, there's a chapter that tells you all my entire experiences. Then you have to do the cover. And you have to decide what that cover should be. My decision on the cover, which you will later also hear a little bit more about the branding, why I chose this particular cover, and all that. But essentially, you choose a cover, choose a back cover right up, and then you're off. It's very fast, and then you can decide on where you want to sell. Do you want to sell just the US, globally? There's no cost. Your decision. You can sell anywhere you want. And then, do you want an ebook? No problem. So Toby talked about bookstores and online retailers. So you can choose to make it available. You can choose to make it available to libraries and academic institutions. Not a problem. Or you can choose to sell it directly yourself. So it's completely your decision. My book is right now actually housed in many academic libraries, including University of IU. Okay? It's definitely available at University of Maryland College Park and UMBC libraries. I think South Dakota University or another university that has a big cybersecurity program, they have it. Yeah, so many academic institutions have taken this book. The book is also used to teach cybersecurity leadership in a variety of colleges and universities, including Canada and Australia. So I did that mostly through the personal branding part. So let me get to that. And then you will see how I didn't really do it. It just so happened that I learned that it was there, like that.
It was God.
Rudy.
I was watching something, actually my wife was watching it yesterday, and I was just walking through the room. I can't remember her name, like Renee Brown or something like that. Anyway, she was, part of her presentation, she was talking about, she had a title for a book, and the publishers kept coming back with different covers that she didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was translated into other languages,
Mm-hmm.
she had no control over what the covers were.
Mm.
She was a little disappointed at the images that they had, with her name associated with it.
Good point. So you can see, yeah, Jim.
Yeah, we had talked about this some time ago, and you had made a point to me that I thought might be helpful to the class about the distinction between using independent publishing versus self-publishing.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. Very important point. The world of commercial publishers are going to try to denigrate your publishing by saying, oh, you're just a self-published author. Don't let them put you down, because there's a big difference between self-publishing and independent publishing. And you should always consciously use that term, independent publishing. You chose to go this route because of all those reasons. You didn't do self-publishing. You did independent publishing. So make sure you talk about that distinction. And as you even evangelize this, which hopefully some of you will, please mention that. And this is why I go around any conference that wants me to talk about this. I'm happy to go there and talk about it, because academics need this. They need to be empowered.
Did you hire an editor?
Another great question. I tried to. I sent it out to an editor that I was working with, that was working for, I think, it was one of the publications. And what I found was that by giving it to an editor sometimes, you can lose your voice. And they really have to be deep into the subject matter and passionate about the subject matter to truly do it. So after going that route, I finally found out that that was not going to work out, because my work would become diluted and completely different. I wanted to maintain the integrity of my voice and everything. So what I did was, my first edition, I just published it, because the beauty of going this way is that if your first edition is not so good, and maybe it needed some more editing, your first round of reviewers are going to give you feedback. So that's kind of what happened. March of 2014 is when I published the first edition of Cybersecurity Leadership. If you look at your inside cover, it's actually the third. You have the third edition. So this third edition was brought out September of 2015. This was after it had gone to a whole bunch of reviewers and gotten feedback. And what I got was all the things that were wrong with the first edition. I also got reviews. So what happened was, I was painstakingly looking at the negative reviews. What did they say? And then I eliminated all the things that they said. Like, for example, one of the things that somebody said was, your book doesn't have an index. 48 hours after I got that comment, I produced an index. So I chose to erase every negative comment out there. My initial thing did not start with what is cybersecurity, because I was trying to do leadership, so I started with leadership. But then I found out, as soon as I put that out there, wait a minute, people don't even know what cybersecurity is. So first, I then put the what is cybersecurity chapter into that book. Actually, it was a good thing I did that, because that is the chapter that has really made a lot of waves. Because what I also did with that chapter is I made it literally freely available to anybody. Any school, college that wants to use that first chapter, they can use that. And I produced a video with slides on there where the first chapter narration in my own voice is overlaid onto the slides. So basically, it's a introduction to cybersecurity. It is available to all UMGC students for free in the ASC 605 course and the CST 610 course. Many university schools, even high schools, are using that particular chapter because it gives them the introduction to cybersecurity, the interdisciplinary, and all that stuff. So anyway, this is what happened. And then initially, I priced the ebook at $9.99. But after about 2-3 years there, I started thinking, wait a minute. My whole goal to come to academia was to spread knowledge. And yes, at $9.99, I was making some money, $5-6 every time somebody bought it. But my goal wasn't the money itself. My goal was to get that knowledge out there. So I think it was 2017, October of 2017, when we had that cybersecurity month. I just decided, let me experiment and see what happens if I price it to $2.99 for the ebook globally. See what happens.
Flash sale.
Sorry?
Flash sale.
Flash sale. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, I mean, the sales like increased tenfold.
Yeah.
I said, oh, so it is price sensitive. Because initially I was thinking that ebook $10 is a reasonable price. But ebook $10 is not a reasonable price for students. Students for $2.99 is much better. And so because I did that globally, guess what? Australia, Canada, all these other places, India started seeing a lot of sales. And my goal was what? Number of sales as much as possible to get the knowledge out there, mind share. That's the whole idea. So that's what I did.
And what did Amazon charge you for that?
Nothing.
Oh, they get a commission.
Oh, yeah, for every $2.99, I'm probably making $1 now. Okay, which is okay with me.
They're taking 50%-ish. A little more than
Doesn't
that.
matter. It's okay with me. It's okay with me. Because here's the thing about royalties. On Amazon, for the paperback, you can get 70% of the royalties. So there's a production cost, and then there's a royalty portion. Amazon only keeps 30% of the royalties. You get 70% of the royalties. So you decide where you need to be, and they'll tell you, when you do the pricing of your book, you will see your split. You will see how much you will make, how much Amazon will make. No problem. So you make the decision. And you can change the price any day you want. If you price it something today, 1 week later you can price it different, or even 1 day later. So you control the price at any time.
How much is the publication for this happens? Or how much it costs?
Zero.
Publication cost was there, you got to print it.
It was still zero. Because the book is not published until somebody buys it. I mean, book is not.
When they buy it, how much
Okay,
is
so let's say someone.
Oh!
It can't be zero.
Again, it's still not a cost for me, you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's not a cost for me.
I think you should ask what's the percentage between production costs and royalties.
Yeah, so let's say 9.99, right? So your royalty is 70%, Amazon takes 30% royalty.
Mm-hmm.
So does the royalty include the publication, printing?
No, that's what
cost?
I'm saying, that Amazon has a production cost number,
Okay,
and you will see that number. For the color, maybe the production cost number is $7.
okay,
For the black and white, maybe the production cost is number $3 or $4.
okay.
All right? Then anything beyond that is the price that you pick. And I think Amazon, for the paperback version of this one, was saying I have to price it a minimum of $8. And at $8, I would make $0. I would make no money at all. You will see it. So then you play with the numbers to see what do you feel is a sweet spot.
Okay.
I feel like I'm at the sweet spot now, because I think Amazon is pricing the book now at about $25, which is pretty reasonable. Again, you experiment and see what works the best. I'm comfortable with the $2.99 for the ebook. And then what I did was I also produced an audiobook, because what's happening is that I was finding out that about 1/3 of my consumers would not read ebooks or paperback. And many of them are the executives that I really need to get hold of. So what I did was, and then they told me, I said, what do you do? How do you get your information? Oh, audiobooks. I read on the fly, the car. I said, oh, okay. So here's how you do the audiobook. At acx.com, it's also an Amazon company. Because you own the rights, you can do your audiobook. There are 2 ways to do the audiobook. One is you can decide to narrate yourself, or you can hire a professional narrator. It's totally up to you.
Or me. Or Rudy.
Oh, Rudy.
That's good, Rudy.
I chose to narrate it myself so that it sounds a little bit more authentic, the emotion is there. And I also had a background in music and sound engineering and stuff like that. So I had a recording studio in my basement. So basically that's what I did to produce my audiobook. It took me 6 months to do it, but it was a lot of fun. And I also now don't have to share the royalties of my audiobook with a narrator. Because if I chose a narrator, I would have to split the royalties with the narrator. So it's your choice. Mhm.
So, I got your audiobook, the first one,
Mhm.
and there's a paid subscription. I think it's like $14.99 for the audiobook.
Mhm.
How do you price your book then, or how do you make, is it $14 a book on audio, or?
No,
No.
it's a subscription for.
I paid the subscription, and they
So
give me
it goes
1
away?
credit a month, and then I was able to purchase the audiobook.
But
Right.
the books are priced differently.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe that if you're a member, you can buy the audiobook at a member price, or you can use one of your credits.
They're like, give me 1 credit a month.
Variety of ways. If you're not a member of Audible, you can actually get your first audiobook for free.
I like the audiobook because it shows your authenticity, I can hear your voice, and it's better.
Yeah, I believe Lois also experienced my book in an audiobook format, right? So, yeah, and that's what I really wanted.
I was just curious about the narrator and why you need to split the royalties with that person. I mean, wouldn't you be hiring them as a?
Just pay them.
Well, that's an option.
A work for hire?
Yeah,
It is,
that's an option.
it is definitely an option,
Okay.
but that would mean upfront costs.
I
See, I was trying to avoid any upfront costs. My model for publishing was, my upfront cost should be $0.
And I think that's important. That's
Yeah.
really the difference between traditional publishing
Yeah.
and independent publishing, these
Yes.
words,
Yes,
is a shift of risk,
yes.
right? In traditional publishing, they were committing basically to produce X thousand of copies, right? Why are there remainders? You ever go to a bookstore that sells only remainders,
Mm.
right? Why do they exist? Well, because the publisher took on the risk of your book, and when they do that, they pre-print several thousand copies, depending on what that first run is. And if they don't sell, which, by the way, the vast, vast, vast majority do not, they then sell them for the remainder for a penny or a few pennies, and they write off all that expense. So what Amazon effectively has done is shifted the risk from the publisher to you, or you, right? So you're taking on that risk, and then you have to decide how much risk you want to take on. You took very little risk in terms of, I'm only going to do it on demand,
Right.
but by doing that, you're sharing risk with narrators and Amazon and other people, right? It really depends on how much risk you want to take on in terms of pre-printing or not.
Yeah, these are all choices, and we can have deeper conversations if any of you are ready to do your own thing. Of course, because this is the beginning of a relationship, not the end of a relationship, right?
This issue of the narrator, is it compulsory that you hire them, and is there any advantage?
Of hiring a narrator?
Mhm.
Yes, there are advantages. Sometimes your own narration may not be clear, may not be understandable, and you yourself may not be comfortable because it's really a performance. If you think about it, narrating the audiobook is almost like a performance. And the quality is very important. So that's why I'm gonna share this part of the thing, what I did to improve the quality.
I don't mean to digress, but since I've seen the word editing, you did mention that you didn't use an editor. Did you use the editor software?
Yes, I use editing software. So this is the software that I use called Audacity.
No, that's for the audio.
Yeah.
But for your book,
Mhm.
did you use the print book? Did you use the editing software?
No, I mean, Word and Google Docs already had grammatical and spelling checks and things like that. But the best part was when I did the audio narration, that's when I caught many of the typos, many of the issues. So that's when I corrected some of that stuff. So I think it's great to read your entire book aloud yourself. Even if you don't do the audiobook, read your entire book aloud.
And record it?
If you want to record it, that's fine too. But that was the best experience, which allowed me to, I took that second edition of the book and I was doing the narration and I was actually marking it with a different colored pen. And all of those corrections. So you hopefully, in the edition that you guys got, you should not find typographical errors or grammatical errors.
So, just a further point, the written editing. So we stopped at my company using Grammarly and stuff like that because they're taking your intellectual property from the database.
Oh.
Yeah, so we stopped using that. So I just wanted to put that out.
So on that, can I comment here? So for my dissertation work, right? So because I'm a professional, I wrote whatever the things I'm thinking. So I use Grammarly, and my dissertation chair suggested me to hire some professional grammar, the English department person. So she went through my thing. She doesn't know anything about what I wrote, but she was suggesting me a lot. So my dissertation was already proofread by some expert. So
but there's a difference between proofreading and editing, right? Proofreading is what you just talked about, typos and things like that. Editing is also looking at the structure of your content, the way you've laid it out, the way the paragraphs are structured. Should you, give less information to certain areas than others? I mean, it's an informed editing as opposed to just checking.
Readability.
Right, readability, exactly, right.
Okay, so what I did with the audio is whenever you're doing the recording, there will be breathing noises. Even things like that will get into that audio recording. You have to get rid of all of that. So it took me a long while to do that, but Audacity is a open source free software that you can use to do that. And you can also do patching and editing. So for example, there was a place maybe where the word "the" was kind of damaged and it didn't sound right. No problem. I can cut and paste the word "the" from another place, actually put it there, and it sounds beautiful. So it's a lot of things that you can do.
Is that voice animation?
It's not voice animation, it's audio editing. So this allows you to also, let's say the recording that you did is not at the right volume level. So you can change that in this editing software. I just wanted to expose you to these ideas. And then basically what did I do for marketing? Well, immediately upload to Amazon, and you got the 3 prices over there. So immediately global sales, and then you start to collect. Then the next thing comes is promotion. How do you promote the books? So you start speaking at conferences, book signing, book giveaways, entering and winning contests. Very important. Because as you enter and win contests, guess what? The value of your work starts to go up, and you get to get known. And then what happened? Somebody asked for the results. What was my results like? Well, if you go to bookauthority.com, you will see that my audiobook right now is #1 audiobook of all time. #1 cybersecurity audiobook of all time. Right now. It has maintained that since January of 2018. I was very scared what would happen 2019, but I noticed that my ranking actually went up, because there's a score. And that goes up because of acceptance and embrace. Because I've continued to speak and build my brand, and so that's what has been happening. So now I'll go to the next part of the conversation, which is that personal branding. Because personal branding and your independent publishing kind of goes hand in hand.
Could you see if anyone online has any questions about the publishing?
Anyone online have any questions about publishing?
I just have a
Yes.
Yeah. I know, especially in a professional organization and a profession like cybersecurity, there's a lot of integrity that's built into the process. And with independent publishing, with everyone being able to get in, being able to publish books, it seems like that has real potential of just swamping. Kind of like with Google searches, you have so much information, you have no information. So you have this massive amount of book publishing. Not really any kind of peer review built in, not any it's really difficult to separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. How do you get around that with independent publishing? How do you make books stand out to the point, and how do you find the right books?
Book authority and places like that, that are ranking books are places to go. So they are ranking books of all types. So one of the things about some of these places is they're not necessarily just looking at books that are independently published or not independently published. The book that is number 2 is actually written by a professor named Hubbard. Okay, how to measure anything in cybersecurity risk. That's a commercial publisher. My book is rated higher than that commercial book. So in this website, there's a whole bunch of mix of publishers. It doesn't matter how you get published. If you have the quality and if you believe in your stuff, you will get recognized. That's what happened to me. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, this is Jason. How would you get more schools to use your book in classes?
How would I get more schools to use my books?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that can happen is when I spoke, for example, at Conference Nights, as people get to know your materials, a lot of professors start to embrace your materials. They realize that, oh, there's nothing like that out there. So it's all about you speaking at conferences, getting your work out there in a variety of ways. When I did that publication where I did that commercial publication with that one chapter, but that helped me get exposure to a big academic community. Then talk to your sphere of influences. So you will see a little bit of that during my personal branding conversation, mainly because as you get to know people, then people will reach out to you. For example, some academic institutions in Canada reached out to me after they saw my work and everything and said, hey, Dr. Hasib, could we embrace your book and your cybersecurity leadership course into our curriculum? Absolutely, no, why not? So I did it for them. Guess what happened to their enrollment went up because they're the only school in Canada that now has a cybersecurity leadership course as part of their curriculum.
Yeah, Dr. Hasib, in that situation, that they have incorporated your books into their curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
What is your reality? What is your gain?
What is my gain? My gain is recognition.
It shouldn't be all about money.
No, absolutely not. Just asking.
If a big university from Canada just calls you like that, it means all over the world everybody can just call you. That's what I'm asking.
Right. No, this is an important point. Yes, but you need to be able to let other people make money, because what happens is that school in Canada is now doing more promotion for me in Canada than I could have ever done myself.
It could attract conferences for you free of charge and everything like that.
Correct. No, see, as a matter of fact, I'm going to speak in Canada at the end of May is because of the fact that the CEO of that college basically lobbied and told everybody, if you haven't heard from Dr. Hasib, you need to. And so they have invited me. And most of the time, I don't pay a dime for any of these things.
Are you open to coming with corporations and?
Absolutely, yes, yes. That's the whole idea. I am there whenever anybody needs me, but UMGC cannot be paying. So that's another rule that I have, that I'm happy to go do things for other people, but those companies need to pay for the expenses and everything, because we are basically teaching. So UMGC cannot pay my expenses. So that's very important.
Do you feel that you're doing against other publishers, like that you have to make a case for your book versus what other publishers are already putting out there?
I did not catch the question.
Do you feel that you have to make a case for your book versus what other publishers already have out there, or what classes are already using?
Yes, so I did not find anything related to what I wrote in cybersecurity leadership. I could not find it out there. That was the main reason for me writing that, because initially I had to learn what is out there, and I found out that it isn't there. And the whole thing about cybersecurity leadership is that I actually shared 30 years of my practicing this. So there's a lot of war stories in there. How I dealt with CFOs, it's in there. What was my role as a CIO? So last 12 years of my career, I was a CIO. What was my role? How was I interacting with, say, CISOs? And what is the difference between a CISO and a CIO? All of those things are in that book. So it's very important. Those things aren't out there. Even right now, there's a huge confusion in the industry about what is a CIO, what is a CISO, who should report to whom. I deal with all of those things in the book. So I don't want to dwell too much on that publishing because we did spend more time than we wanted to. But personal branding is very important. And it starts with really your values. What do you stand for? And even how your name is displayed. So I like to have my name displayed a particular way. And it's kind of important to me. I don't want to have Mansur Hasib, DSC or anything like that. I don't want to have Mansur Hasib, PhD or something. I want to have Dr. Mansur Hasib. So you will often face strange things in life. One of the strange things that I faced was that UMGC marketing had a particular way. They wanted my name in the business card. I said, there is no way I'm going to allow that to happen. So what did I do?
Print your own.
I just printed my own, put the UMGC logo in there. All right, co-branded the card. I displayed the way I want it, but it is also a personally branded card. Why is that personal branding important? Is my job at UMGC guaranteed?
No.
No.
I guarantee.
It is very important that when you do a card, make sure that your contact information is something that is more likely to be permanent, something that you own. So on my business cards, I have my personal email address that will never change as long as Google is in business. The other thing is that I also put my phone number, my cell phone number, which again, I have full control over. I do not have full control over my UMGC email address or my UMGC phone numbers. But you see, the card is so important that when you make a connection, do you ever want to lose that connection? No. You never want to lose that connection. So it's very important that you start to develop this idea in your mind. The second thing is that your card needs to reflect what you're all about. Your card needs to start a conversation. The moment you put that card out there, the moment I have given this card, as a matter of fact, this happened to me day before yesterday. I was at an awards dinner, and I was sitting next to a CEO of a company, and we were just introduced. I just gave them the card. They said, oh my God, you're the author. I'm reading your book right now. That would never have happened if that book cover wasn't part of the card. So this is very important. The other thing is I've found people talking about why you have a cactus on the cover of your book. Guess what? That just started a conversation. In explaining that, we're building a relationship. Because when you meet somebody at any conference, they don't know anybody, right? And you're just exchanging business cards. If you cannot start a conversation, you will never build a relationship. So that's very important. Your values need to be reflected in the card. Notice that I say some things. Ethical leadership, that's one of my values. Evangelizing about independent publishing and branding, that's one of my core DNA things. I also believe in innovation culture, helping organizations implement innovation cultures in their organizations. So that's all in there. There is a job title in there probably. It does say Program Chair of Cybersecurity Technologies, but also your personal stuff has to be there. Your certifications should be part of your branding. Yeah, because certifications sometimes mean something to people. So just by looking at CISSP, PMP, CP, people should know, oh, this guy is certified in cybersecurity, project management, and healthcare. Part of your brand. So I'm very fanatic about that. The other thing is that it should also talk about your values and the symbols, your mission in life, the causes you support, what your actions work and so very important thing about dressing up. When you come to a professional conference, if I came to the same colloquium today wearing shorts and a raggedy t-shirt.
Book shirt?
It probably would not reflect very well on my personal brand. But again, if I wore this same thing at a baseball game, it probably wouldn't reflect very well either. So your brand should be that you can blend and do the appropriate things in the appropriate conditions. That's what the personal brand should be all about. I have seen some people that are always dressing one way or the other, and they do that in every circumstance. But that's their personal brand, not a problem. The other key thing of a personal brand is that it needs to be independent of the organization. So for example, is it more important for me to be known as Dr. Mansur Hasib, cybersecurity leader, a more generic term, not necessarily associated, because even if I leave UMGC tomorrow, that won't change. The fact that I'm a cybersecurity leader will never change. So you need to make sure that when you're disassociated from an organization, that your personal brand isn't diminished. So you need to build that personal brand independent of the organization. Does that make sense? The other beautiful thing about that is this. Why do you do this? Whenever somebody hires you, any organization that hires you, they're doing a simple calculation. I'm going to pay this person. But this person is going to deliver some work products. Is the work product and whatever they're doing, is that work product value higher than the cost? In other words, what do I pay? I pay them a salary. Is the value higher than the cost? Nobody will hire you if they believe that the value you produce is lower than the cost. Nobody will hire you. So, personal branding, basically, here's what it does. It starts to increase your value, the perception of value. Now, value is another thing, is most of value comes from perception. You will see two baseball players in two different organizations earn completely different compensation based on the perception of value. Okay? So your goal with personal brand is to build value for your work. Increase the value of your work. And what will happen is, as you increase the value of your work, you will be able to negotiate better salaries, better compensation. It will also help to market your ideas, because if your personal brand is strong, no matter what you say, people are going to accept it. It also will develop confidence and potential job security. For example, if the organization that you're affiliated with actually believes that your association with the company enhances the value of the company and the brand of the company, guess what? Your job is a little bit more secure. But if the company believes that your association with the company is actually diminishing the value of the company, then your job is not very secure. So this is very important, that as you start building your own reputation, because you're enhancing the reputation of the organization you're with, your job security starts to increase. So in an era of perpetual job insecurity, that's one way to help increase your job security. You will also get better control of your career. For example, if you were out of a job, if you have a strong personal brand, guess what? You will have an easier time finding employment somewhere, because your reputation will precede you. If they do a Google search, they will see what you have done, and you will also have multiple sources of income. This is kind of very important for risk management. You need to have an income stream from your publishing, from your public speaking, from your writing, from a variety, maybe a little bit of consulting. So a lot of things can help you with your job insecurity situation. So that way, if you're ever laid off, and it did happen to me in 2010, the university I was with, where I was a CIO, basically vanished. It went out of business. Luckily, I had other sources of income that kept me through, and I was able to decide that, let me find out what I need to do. And that's when I found the doctoral program and basically changed my life around because of that. So it's very important to do that. And of course, you will increase your earnings, and your personal success will be decoupled from the organization's success. In other words, your success doesn't depend on the organization alone. So that is kind of key. So for example, as I said, if somebody wants me to speak at a conference, the first thing I negotiate is expenses paid and all that stuff, because I don't want to have to go to UMGC and tell them you got to pay, because that's not fair, number one, because we're kind of donating our time and all that to do that work. So why should UMGC have to pay for that? That doesn't make any sense, right? So these are very important things, that your personal success has to be decoupled from the organ. Because if I had to go to UMGC for every conference that I speak at, I would be denied most of the time. And my personal success would be diminished. But by doing the personal brand, why would somebody pay to have you speak? Because your personal brand is strong enough, it'll sell tickets. Every conference has to sell tickets.
I'm definitely learning that, because someone just linked in me from Nova chapter, ISPA, whatever,
Okay.
asking me to speak, and I was like, well, I don't know if you remember, but I live in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. Is there any benefits or compensation? So he said he'll get back with me on that. He said he forgot.
Right.
Yeah.
So ISC Square did invite her to come to Florida. They're paying all her expenses. So now, how do you build it? One of the key things you have to do is focus on a key passion. Many of you said that you're interested in, say, forensics or artificial intelligence or integrity or authentication. It doesn't matter what your passion is. Focus on the key passion. What I did was cybersecurity leader. My focus was cybersecurity leadership. And can I talk about artificial intelligence? Probably can. Can I talk about encryption? Probably can, but I choose not to, because there are other people, that's their platform. They do a better job of that. And I don't want to dilute my personal brand. I want to talk about leadership. I want to talk about strategy. I want to talk about that. The other thing is staying in your lane. Very important. We all live in a political environment. We may have faith. We may have religions. I would recommend that in public forums, never talk about politics or religion, because it will dilute from your brand. Because whatever you say will split your consumer base, and all of a sudden, your work is not being consumed by half the population because they don't believe in that religion or in that political party that you espouse. And as a cybersecurity leader, do I care whether I'm serving a Republican or a Democrat? I don't care. Do I care about religion? I don't care. So do I have preferences? Absolutely. Keep them private.
It seems like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that you stayed in your lane when you said previous that you focus on cybersecurity leadership, and you get some other people to talk about the other aspects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Then the other thing is that choosing a symbol, but also concentrating on being the best in the world in something. So my goal was singular. In cybersecurity leadership, I wanted to establish myself as a global authority on cybersecurity leadership, nothing else. So my recommendation to you is that whatever passion it is that you choose, for example, Tomiko's passion is drone cybersecurity. I bet you in about a year, 2 years' time, she will be a globally known authority in that field. She's already getting well known. And the beautiful thing about this field is so new that really in a 1 to 2 year time, you can become very famous. My work in cybersecurity leadership, it took me literally about 3 years to get embraced globally. And then focus everything around that passion. But the other thing is about the integrity. So I said that values are important as part of your personal brand. And you need to be open about that. So these are my key values. And I'm very fanatic about that. These are also the values that I've shared in that book about how I led the teams. My teams also have to embrace these values because values drive behavior and culture. That is also reflected in my personal brand. So now, why did I choose this cactus as the cover of my book? Because this cactus, the particular cactus that I chose, is not an ordinary cactus. If you notice, it has that crest. So this is actually a crested giant swallow that grows in parts of Arizona and some parts of Mexico. That's it. You won't find them anywhere else. They live 200, 250, 300 years. But their arms take about 50 years. The first arms will come out in about 50 years. They live in the forest in very dry conditions, very little rainfall. So in order to survive, because they're so tall, what they have to do is they have to grow their roots sideways, and all the trees around has to intertwine their roots with the roots of the other trees. So I looked at all this and I said, that's my brand. Because to me, intertwining of the roots meant what? Community team membership. We can never be successful alone. We have to be successful within a community and be dependent upon each other. So therefore I said this cactus can represent that for me. The other thing is that this crest is a distinguishing symbol. And I believe that leaders distinguish themselves somehow in something. It doesn't matter what it is, but they're trying to be excellent at something. But leaders also have to live with all the other people around them who are also good at something else. So that to me is that whole concept of, again, community and all that. Leaders never compete against other leaders. I've never in my entire career have I ever competed against anybody else. My goal has always been to be a better me than I am today. That's all I have done. And trying to help everybody else around me also succeed. So one of the things that I've always said, and I've said this to Patrick many times, Lois many times, is that I will never knowingly let you fail. If I see you do something wrong, I'll point it out. You can choose to do it anyway. That's your choice. But as an honest team member, it is my job to make sure you don't fall off the cliff. And if you're about to fall off the cliff, I should let you know. And you should trust. I should have that trust and integrity that you know that if Mansur is telling me he truly believes this is likely to happen. It may not happen. I may be wrong. But at least I have given you the chance. And that is important. So that is why I chose that. Perseverance, hard work, because of the 50 years, long life. Integrity and purpose, because these cacti still give shelter to the woodpeckers and all the animals around them. They still store water in their body. So in other words, they're still fulfilling their life purpose. And we all have to fulfill our life purpose. Regardless of what it is that we're doing, we got to be a good human being first also. So I felt like that was why this cactus could be the personal brand that I embrace. And so what I've done is that in everything that I do, this cactus symbol is represented. And what that has helped is generate so many conversations. Now they just look at that cactus and they know it has to do with Dr. Hasib. But if they don't know, they can at least ask me, and it starts that conversation. Then, for building the brand, what do? As a leader, it has to be about knowledge sharing. You have to empower others, give them the knowledge. And what I did was I produced a daily newspaper, books, writing, content marketing, other people, and basically did LinkedIn, reflecting the brand, got recommendations, I have a presence on Twitter. My website is rich with a whole bunch of content, and it changes daily. So if your content changes daily, people are going to come back. Then I have cross-linking with a whole bunch of other sites that allows my website to rise in the rankings. That is the daily paper. Then you got to get the global contributions and the mentions. And then what happens is that your personal brand starts to grow. You enter contests. So Dr. Palin was in a contest. She won this one. We won many awards. So these are all part of enhancing not only your personal brand, but also the personal brand, also the institutional brand of the institution that you're affiliated with. Because as your personal brand rises, your institutional brand has to rise. These are all various mentions and stuff like that. And you will see that if you do, the other key thing about personal branding is also making sure that your team members are also winning.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I did in trying to enhance the institutional brand and the brand of the program and the university, I supported my team members. So we helped Emma win the People's Choice Award in 2018. And then we helped Dr. Lois Palin win in 2019. Because it's not about one person winning, it's about showing that you have a winning team.
And you won in 20.
I won in 2017.
3 years in a row.
So 3 years in a row, UMGC. So this is very important. So what has happened as a result of that? If you do a search on the word cybersecurity leader, you should probably see my work reflected on the very first page of the search.
Wow.
And my recommendation to you is build a brand, choose a couple of words, maybe 1 word, 2 words that you want to focus your brand on. So that should be your workshop. What are you going to focus on? What words are you going to focus on? So that those words, when people search for those words, your name will be on the first page of the Google search. Stay in your lane. I already talked about this, but today's workshop is we will create your plan also. So you need to start thinking about that. I think you allocated some lunch time for that, some of that?
After this.
Okay, so we will work with you on that, refining that. And that's basically it.
So I have to say that I've had a long career in academia, corporate America, in government, contracting, and I've never met anybody like Mansur who is about promoting other people. I have never met anyone that will put your name forward before his. He'll nominate you. He'll think about things that you can be part of. Mansur is a star at that. So, so now we can take, let me just take a minute. Introduce Emma, Dr. Emma Garrison Alexander. You guys, want to come and have a couple of words? And then we'll take a quick break. And then we're going to come back. I think between now and lunchtime, we'll let you reflect on some of the things that Dr. Mansur said. And you can start taking some notes, think about what you might want to do. And we'll be around to talk about and help you think about those things. So here's Emma.
Hi, it's good to see everybody here today. Thank you, Dr. Palin, for your leadership in putting this conference together. Clearly, it's everybody's embracing. I see everybody's very attentive to this particular activity that's going on with the independent publishing and just really opening the doors so that you can see how you can also use this. And I think it's been presented in a way that you can take away from it, something that's actionable, that you can use for your own career, your own building your own personal brand, and also just even working with your organizations. You know, you can also not just apply this to your personal brand, but you can also bring it into your organization and help there as well. And thank you, Mansur. I think what Dr. Palin said regarding his willingness to promote other people is absolutely true. And, because there's a lot to go around out there, right? It's not just one thing. There's so much opportunity to be recognized. So you don't lose anything by promoting other people. Good to see you, Art. It's been a while.
Yeah, thank you.
Florida last year about this time.
Right, that's correct.
And so, thank you all for coming and participating on a Saturday, because I know this is, your personal time, that you would normally be doing other things. Hi, Rudy.
Hi.
Good. And so it's good to see, Tamika. She's one of our graduates, and just kind of seeing how she is being mentored and how she's doing a good job of following the guidance that she's been given. So, she's getting a lot of recognition. Mansur shares the different things that she's involved in. So we're very proud of you for what you've been doing. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Emma. One of the very important